Well, I am so excited to be here with you. I'm so honored to be here with you. I appreciate so much your leadership and your wisdom in electing Randy as the president of the AFT. And Randy, as you know, is not just a leader here for your union, but Randy is a leader nationally, in my view, for the labor movement. I consider her a soul sister on the AFL-CIO executive board, trying to make sure that the AFL-CIO becomes more membership mobilized, more membership activism, as you're doing in the AFT and as we're trying to do in the UAW. She's been a great friend and a great leader. Loretta, thank you for that really warm and thoughtful introduction. Fran, great history with the UAW, coming out of the most unionized city in America, Toledo. Thank you for your great leadership. You know, I'm really blessed to have so many friends in the AFT. Dave Hecker has been a close personal friend for a long time, both he and his wife Alice. He gives great leadership, not just in Michigan, not just to the Michigan Federation of Teachers, but Dave really is a leader for the whole labor movement in Michigan. He does more, in my opinion, than any single individual to bring us all together, to work through what are sometimes the differences in the labor movement. And so I really want to thank Dave for his friendship and his leadership for the Michigan labor movement and also the Michigan Democratic Party. We're blessed in Michigan, as you are blessed in Michigan, because we not only have Dave, but Keith Johnson and Ruby Newbold. And I just want to say to all the Detroit members of AFT, you are fighting a difficult battle. You're fighting for democracy. Emergency financial managers, in my opinion, are anti-democratic and should not be allowed. I'm very proud of what Loretta mentioned in her introduction about our great visionary leader, Walter Reuther, and the role that he personally, and then with his leadership at the UAW, played in helping the formation of the American Federation of Teachers. And we are committed to stand with you, whether it's in Detroit, whether it's in Michigan, or whether it's nationally, to fight for the rights of teachers, to have decent paying jobs, to be allowed to do the job you want to do with students and for all the other jobs. I want to thank really all of the American Federation of Teachers, obviously the K through 12 teachers, but also the paraprofessionals and support personnel, the higher education faculty and professionals, the federal, state, and local members of the AFT, the healthcare, the nurses like my great friend Ann Toomey, and the healthcare workers in the AFT, and the early childhood educators. You do a great job for America. And I want to really single out, because honestly, I don't go anywhere and speak publicly, especially to UAW members, but when I'm in other forums, that I don't express my anger at the right-wing politicians, whether it's Chris Christie or Milt Romney or Newt Gingrich. You know, it's so outrageous. They cut every Republican governor across the United States, cuts, and the Romney supports it, and the Gingriches support it, and advocate for cutting almost every budget cycle. They cut K through 12 education. They cut support staff in the school system. They don't uphold or upkeep the physical structures that our teachers have to teach in. They increase class sizes again and again and again. And then they turn around and they try to vilify teachers for not doing a great job in educating our kids. What I believe, what I want to thank you for, I believe that teachers in America, especially teachers in K through 12 education, especially teachers in urban areas, you are miracle workers. I don't know how you accomplish what you accomplish when you do not have the support of the government and of the taxpayer dollars that you should have. And I really want to thank Randy for her great leadership, because unions do have to change. We're in a different world today. We're in a global economy. We're facing global competition. In the 21st century unionism that Randy talked about yesterday, the problem-solving unionism. In the UAW, we talk about creative problem-solving. We have to do it. And you know and I know, and somehow we have to wake up America. Teachers and support staff and all of the AFT members, you know more about teaching, about healthcare, about government, about higher ed than anybody else. And if we want better education, we need workers' voices in figuring out the problem-solving solutions that will give us better schools, better hospitals, better government. So Randy, thank you for your leadership there. And Randy and I talk about this, and I appreciate her personal encouragement. When we were going through the crisis in the automotive industry, when the Mitt Romneys and the Newt Gingriches and so many others wanted to see a bankruptcy and a liquidation in General Motors and Chrysler, thank you for the support of the AFT in saying we cannot allow the auto industry to die. We've got to support the auto industry. Thank you, President Obama, who, when all the polls, in some cases 80%, because they were mad about the bailouts, did not want to bail out the auto industry. And if the auto industry had been liquidated, over 1 million jobs would have been lost in this country, good paying, in most cases, union jobs with good middle-class standard of living, paying good taxes into our communities, would have been destroyed. And it took real courage and leadership from President Obama to support us. And we went in with the same philosophy that Randy was talking about yesterday. We went in, and workers voluntarily voted overwhelmingly because our membership understood there is nobody that has more self-interest in the long-term viability of Ford and General Motors and Chrysler and all of our other manufacturing employers than our UAW members. CEOs come and go, board of directors come and go, key top management comes and goes, shareholders comes and goes. Who's left every day, and that company has to survive, or our members don't have health care or decent pay. So our members have taken a lot of personal responsibility. We do not allow the companies to build bad quality products today. We make quality our #1 priority. We fight with local management, as you have to too often, to give better quality education, or in our case, to make better quality vehicles, because it was a management's decision to care more about quality than quantity that produced a lot of lousy vehicles built by Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler in years past. We are committed in the UAW, as you are in the AFT, not to allow our employers to produce low-quality services or low-quality products. And nobody does a better job of that than the workers who work those jobs every day in the schools and the hospitals and the governments and in the auto factories. So we are sole partners with you in demanding a greater voice for workers. I hope that someday we can do what Europe has done, what Germany has done, laws that require co-determination, laws that require on every school board or every board of directors for every corporation that there has to be worker representation. If we want a stronger America, we have to do that. But let me tell you an issue that, again, we're aligned with, and we need your active involvement every day. America does not understand. Too many progressive economists do not understand. Really honestly, some labor leaders do not understand the core centrality to a democracy, the core centrality to a middle class, the core centrality to a fair and just society is a vibrant and strong labor movement. For years and years, generations really, before the current right-wing ideologues took over the Republican Party, there was actually a bipartisan understanding that you cannot have a democracy if you do not have a strong union movement. When the United States was fighting for democracy in Eastern Europe, or supporting democracy movements in South Africa, or Poland, or other places around the world, we supported independent trade unions in those countries because we knew you could not have a democracy without strong unions. And what we have to do in the American labor movement, we have to make our core value and message that we talk about to our friends and families and neighbors, that we are losing democracy in America. When you have state governments that can impose emergency financial managers and take out the people's elected representatives, that is anti-democratic. When you have multitudes of states passing voter suppression laws to stop people from voting, young people and old people and people of color and poor people, when you have people trying to take away their right to vote, that is destroying our democracy. When we have these right-wing ideologues that are trying to take away collective bargaining rights, that is part of a plan to take away our democracy. And so what we have to be committed to is that we have to be committed to rebuilding the labor movement. And what I am excited about in all this negativity, one of the good things that's coming out of this, one of the silver linings in the storm that we're in, silver lining in the clouds, is there is greater solidarity in the labor movement than I've seen in my lifetime. And the other exciting thing that is happening, there is a reawakening of the importance in America of a social and economic justice movement that's willing to march and rally and demonstrate and sit in and perform acts of nonviolent civil disobedience as necessary if we want to rebuild a strong America. I hope and would ask you that every day, whoever you're talking to, you talk about the importance of unionism to having a middle class, the importance of a middle class to having a fair economic society, and the importance of both the middle class and unions to having a democracy. We need to remind people, and we want people to go back and look at the historical facts. These are not my opinion, these are facts. When the labor movement was growing and expanding, every worker in America, union and non-union, benefited, right? When the UAW and the steel workers and the Teamsters and the other industrial unions won better wages and benefits, that set a community standard that teachers and nurses and government workers could say, if auto workers can make this much, why can't we, right? And then that standard set the basis for unions in the public sector and unions at teachers' unions and hospital unions, and gave you more power at the bargaining table to win more of the justice your membership deserved. What's also really important to understand that when you grew and the labor movement grew, and we represented 25 and 30 and 35% of workers in America, all workers' wages went up. The percent of workers with health care and kids and families who had access when unions were up, everybody in society was up. Number of workers with pensions, defined benefit, union and non-union. As unions went up, that went up. But even more important that people don't understand, what happened on every single metric of social justice. When unions were stronger,
less people were in poverty. The percent of people in America was less when unions were stronger. When unions were stronger, unions were part of the progressive movement back in the early 30s and 40s that fought for public education in America, right? And when unions were strong, K through 12 funding in every state across the country was much higher. When unions were strong, where were tuition levels across this country? They were affordable. When I graduated from high school in Michigan, I could go to University of Michigan or Michigan State, two great universities, and a working family could afford it. Today, kids can't have it. So all those metrics, and then what has happened as a percent of workers in the labor movement has gone down, every one of those, poverty is up, healthcare access is less, workers with defined benefit pensions is less, poverty is up, all the metrics of social justice are down. So we have a tremendous job to do this year. Number one, we have to re-elect President Obama, right? And we have to say to our family members, our neighbors, our friends, and especially the youth of America, we have to say elections are about choices, and we cannot allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. There are times when you have been very angry with President Obama and some of the things he said about public education. There have been times when I've been angry with President Obama and his administration about some trade laws or what we are not doing. But in the overall, 80% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, what President Obama, no president, has stood up repeatedly publicly and said, if I was a worker in America, I would want a union in my workplace. Nobody has stood up for collective bargaining the way this president has. So we've got to say this is a really stark choice this year. If Mitt Romney gets elected president and with a Republican control of the House, you're right, and a greater chance to control the Senate, America will go back 50 years. Look around the world. When totalitarian groups have taken over governments and totalitarian societies have been set up, whether it was in Hitler's Germany, Mussolini's Italy, Stalin's Russia, they first attacked the labor movement. They took away people's democratic rights. If we want to protect a democracy, we have to do two things. Step one, and it's only step one, is to re-elect President Obama, keep a majority in the Senate, and fight for majority in the House. And I really think that's possible. But if we mobilize our members, and we be clear that we're about a better world for everybody in America, not just for our members, we can do that. But here's the 2008 lesson. Here's the lesson when we elected Jimmy Carter. Elections are not the end of the fight. Elections are the beginning of the fight. And with Randy's leadership and leadership throughout this movement, Loretta's and Fran's, we have to be committed to rebuilding a social and economic justice movement. As soon as that election is over, we got to be marching and demonstrating and rallying and demanding more funding for K through 12 education, more funding and lower tuitions in college, and relieving the young people's debts. We, number one, have got to immediately march and demonstrate and rally to take away the anti-democratic filibuster rule. Just think about it. If we had marched and demonstrated after '08, honestly, we went and sat down and said, you do the job, President Obama. No elected leader can or will do the job if we don't have a movement demanding justice for all Americans, demanding the right to organize for all Americans, demanding the right for collective bargaining in all Americans. We're up for the fight. We're in this with you. Let's do this together. Thank you.